Should I save my ex-boyfriend or leave him to rot in jail? My ex-boyfriend is about to go to jail and spend a very long time in jail, but I have what it takes to prevent him from going to jail. Should I help him or leave him to rot in jail so he could learn his lessons the hard way? Steven and I dated for 4 years. During our dating period, he had always been so good and we barely had issues. During our 4th year, he proposed and asked me to marry him, which I agreed. So we started our marriage preparations. During these marriage preparations, everything was going on pretty well. But for some reasons known only to him, he suggested that we should keep all the things that we were buying for the wedding in his place because according to our culture, on the day of the marriage, it is the duty of the man to present all the necessary items required by the woman's family to be brought to the woman's family. So I agreed. I contributed about 40% of the purchasing of the items. Then one day, I went to visit Steven like I usually do, but when I was about climbing the staircase that led to his apartment, which was on the 3rd floor of the building, I heard a loud gunshot, pa, 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 and shortly after, I heard people screaming, and later, I heard footsteps loudly pouncing on the staircase, so I quickly hid under the staircase, and as the footsteps got closer, and though at this point I was really scared, I slowly pulled out my phone and recorded 3 men with guns in their hands as they quickly made their way out of the building. As soon as they left, I waited for a while and quickly ran upstairs to find out if my boyfriend Steven was okay. Fortunately, he was okay, but when I got to the 3rd floor, I realized that almost everybody on that floor came out and they were talking about the incident. I later realized that Steven had a gun in his hand and he later explained that he brought out the gun for self-defense if the robbers had made any attempt to rob his apartment. But we later found out that a young man on the 4th floor was shot and unfortunately he lost his life on the day the shooting incident happened. And it happened that this young man happened to be the son to a very influential man in the country, so his father wanted justice for his son at all costs. So almost all the men in the building were invited to the police station for questioning. During this period, there was so much tension in the apartment complex and everybody in the building was tagged as a suspect and thoroughly interrogated one after the other. So because of how tense the environment had become on my boyfriend's apartment complex, for a whole month, I had not visited the place because there was always a police presence there, and anyone who visited the place was thoroughly questioned. But I still kept in touch with Steven and I also advised him to start looking for a new place because his place was no longer safe, which he agreed. But one day, I called Steven and his phone was switched off. After 3 days of not hearing from him, I decided to go to his apartment to find out what was going on. And when I got there, his apartment was completely empty. Everything in his apartment was all gone. I asked about him from his neighbors and they told me that he had moved out about a week ago. Wow, a week ago? I asked myself. But about a week ago, I was in touch with Steven, so why would he move out without telling me? So I quickly called his mother, but she refused to answer her phone. So I later on called his siblings, but strangely, they also did not answer their phones. So I called a very close friend of Steven, and he told me that Steven had traveled to the USA. Wow, traveled to the USA? But how can Steven travel without telling me? We didn't have any issues. Everything was fine between us, so how could he have traveled without telling me or letting me know at least? So I went to his mother's house and surprisingly, she refused to see me. In fact, at this point, I was completely confused and didn't know what was going on because, to the best of my knowledge, his mother liked me very much and was very supportive of our marriage. So why did she refuse to see me? So I called his friend who told me that Stephen had traveled to the USA to give me Stephen's number, but he said he didn't have his number because he was only communicating with him using his local number on WhatsApp. I was in a total shock, confused, and didn't know what to do. It appeared the stories that everybody was telling me didn't make sense. Then one day, in my total confusion, I went to open my drawer where I kept my money for my business, but I realized that all the money was gone. This was a huge sum of money. To the best of my knowledge, nobody broke into my room. And the only visitor that I had in my house in the last few weeks was Stephen. So could it be that Stephen might have stolen my money? Then 3 good months after all that had happened, a strange number called me and it was Stephen. He mentioned that he couldn't marry me again and if I happen to find someone that I like, I should move on with my life. And the most painful part was when he said, was I really thinking that I was going to marry a low-life local girl like me? I was completely shattered. Then he went on to say that he sold the items that we bought for our supposed marriage in order to help him raise money for his journey abroad. And he also confessed that he was the one who took my money from my drawer, and he said when he was able to make money or when he was able to work and make some money, he will resend my money to me. I was completely broken, shattered. But before I could ask him any questions as to why he had decided to treat me that way, he cut the call and blocked me everywhere. I then decided to pick up the pieces and move on with my life, hoping that at least Stephen will send the money that he has stolen from me. But it has been 5 good years now, and Stephen had neither called again nor sent my money to me. Then recently, someone told me that Stephen was back in the country but was also in trouble. So it turned out that the young man who was shot and killed in Stephen's apartment complex parents were still investigating the circumstances that led to their son's death. According to CCTV footage on the premises, on the day of the incident, the CCTV captured Stephen with a gun which made him a prime suspect for the case. Unfortunately, Stephen had traveled out of the country, so the family of the dead young man was waiting patiently for him to come back to the country so that they could get hold of him. Then this year, Stephen arrived in the country. How they got hold of him when he arrived, I still do not know. But he was later arrested and arraigned before court as the prime suspect for the death of the young man. Now, the news is everywhere and it is telecast on national television and radio stations, and Stephen's face is everywhere in the media space as well. Everybody is discussing the matter and most people believe that Stephen actually killed that young man. Interestingly, I stopped using the phone that I used to record the video on the day that I went to Stephen's house, but I have this habit of keeping my old phones even if they are spoiled. So after so many years, I still have that phone, even though I have changed so many phones over the years. So because the case was everywhere and Stephen was marked as the prime suspect, I went back to look at the video I made on the day that I went to Stephen's house and on the day that the young man was killed. It was then I realized that from the video, 2 of the guys' faces were so visible in the video with blood stains on their shirts. Now, according to the reports from journalists reporting on the case, Stephen could go to jail for not less than 15 years if he is found guilty of committing murder. According to reports in the media space, Stephen had been crying and explaining that he knew nothing about the murder, but of course, he had no evidence to back his claim, so he's likely to go to jail if he's not able to prove that he's innocent of the crime. Now, this is where I come in. I know Stephen didn't commit that crime, and I have the evidence on my phone to prove that in order to set him free. But because of the wickedness and pain that man had put me through with the thinking of my emotions, I am not in any way eager to send the evidence that might help him save his life. Plus, all these years, he had not made any effort to send my money to me that he has stolen. So why should I help this man? And the part that hurt me most was how his family also treated me when all this had happened. So why should I also help them in their time of sorrow? Why should I? Right now, the case had been adjourned to another date, and if I don't go to the court in the next court sitting to present the evidence that I have, Stephen might end up going to jail for sure. Right now, my heart is telling me to help him, but my head is also telling me not to, because both this guy and his family are very wicked people. Should I help him? Or should I leave him to be sentenced to jail? Perhaps when he gets to jail, he might learn his lesson the hard way, and when he comes out of jail one day, maybe, just maybe, he might come out a better person. Wow, this is indeed a very sad story. Guys, would you advise this lady to present the evidence that she has so that her ex-boyfriend's life will be saved? Or she should just leave things the way they are in order to teach him a lesson the hard way? Perhaps when he comes out of prison, he will learn to become a better person. Please kindly leave your thoughts in the comment section, and please do well to watch my other videos, and please don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on your notification for more videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.